Hello, everybody. It's Stacy Stubble with Salon Today Conversations, and today I'm with James Alba at the B Hive Salon in Hillsdale, New Jersey. Hey, James, how are you?
Hey Stacy, how are you?
I'm great. We're going to talk about a great topic for April, sustainability and the green kind of sustainability, because we do talk about the economic sustainability all the time. But you have a lot of examples right behind you. Talk a little bit about just what's behind you and how that's sustainable.
Yeah, and it's funny, we always get asked, but I'm actually in the salon today. I am unmasked because the salon is closed and we've been vaporized and hydrostatically cleaned, and it's actually really nice. It's liberating to be in here today without having any of the craziness go on. So I'm appreciative of that. But behind me, this is 100-year-old barn siding. Actually, it's probably about 109 years old because our salon is 9 years old now. But this was from a barn in Pennsylvania. Interestingly enough, it was a barn that was infested by carpenter bees, which was not the reason we purchased it. We actually wanted to use the other side, which was lighter, and we saw all the bore marks of the bees drilling through. We couldn't use it and had to flip it. But if you see on the other side of me here, that is actually recycled steel drums we did our logo with. And I know a lot of salons love to see their logo and their message, printed exactly as is, but we thought it was such a good fit for us to be able to have something that sort of fit our eco model that we love so much.
Love that. And I love that you've got wood that actually ties in both sustainability and bees, because even though people can't see the bees. So tell us, as you built your salon, what were some of the green aspects that you thought about in the systems and the operations?
And it's interesting because there's so many facets. I know everyone, when they think the traditional green form of sustainability, always thinks about recycling, which we believe in, we think is fantastic. We're advocates, and we try to. Salon waste, obviously, which I'm sure we'll talk about a little more in detail, is a different animal. But reality of it is, it's the setup of how you do things. It's the thinking process of making sure our station, the desk that I'm at now, are regular stations. When the company that built them, and there's only a few companies that actually make stations, right, for salons, which we probably all know the names of them. And when we were kind of doing our design, I said, well, we'd like the veneers to be certified green. They looked at us like we were crazy because there was a higher expense to doing that, because they aren't treated with formaldehyde. They are kind of pressed from different materials, and they had to actually source it. And I said, well, it's a deal breaker if you can't source it. So we actually have a certificate for our stations, and they look just
Wow.
like everybody's salon stations that they have. And from a client's perspective, unless you explained it to them or they knew or came in based on that, they wouldn't know. But it was important to us as our foundation to make sure that we did things like that. I always tell people, an interesting thing is, anytime that you have glass, like your window glass in your cars or any of that, that really hard glass, that's all recycled anyway. So when we use that glass for our retail shelves, when we use that for our front desk as the top, we sort of gratuitously got a pass because it was already green. But clients love the aspect of saying, like, hey, did you know that's always green, that low E glass, that type of thing. There's no other way to manufacture it because they actually melt it and fuse it together. So it just gives another layer of stories beside your traditional salon stories.
Now, the materials are really important, but you have to look at every one of your systems as being green as well. And you talked about the waste. How do you manage the waste?
Waste in the salon is really hard. And I know but we're still going to be in the pandemic by the time this airs in the beginning of April. And anybody, like, we have 3 kids at home. So anybody that has kids at home, they're being virtually schooled to any degree, whether it's 2 days a week. Mine are all week, every single day. It feels like I should have become a teacher instead, because
Yeah,
it's
tough.
pandemonium. But the paper towels, the paper plates, or you're subject to dishes, you're subject to all these things. What winds up happening is that you have to figure out the give and the get. So if you like to use glass, which we love glass, our salon, any drinks that we serve are glass. We don't like to use plastic or paper. You can also put your logo and brand it better. And then you turn around and you go home, where we're so eco here. And my wife and I look at each other because we're actually split shifted ourselves in salon. And it's like, man, we have to go to paper plates because these kids, Two of mine are teenagers. My little one is you think that she was about 30 years old, even though she's 10. They just go through stuff. They go through silverware. They go through cups. They go through things so much that it just becomes a full-time job to be a dishwasher at home when you have three kids in homeschool. So you have to figure out what your flexibility is going to be and what you're going to use to sort of make your life easier, right? Sustainability is like, hey, how do I make my life easier and how do I protect the planet and the environment at the same time? So fortunately, in that realm, there are a ton of options. There are paper plates made out of post-consumer recycled material and things. But when you turn into the salon, there's not really a replacement for, I mean, really almost anything in the salon can't be replaced with a more eco option by flipping a switch.
Right. So you were in one of our stories a couple years ago, water woes, and you were able to do something to conserve water. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, it's interesting. And so I would sort of backtrack back and forth, but last year was the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. We had this great event planned that we were going to do that sort of had multifacets to it and incorporated a project called the Thirst Project, which what they do is they provide clean, safe drinking water to people in need globally. So it may be small villages and one of the things we take for granted, whether I know everybody wants to say we're very close to New York City, but everybody loves to say New York City water is the best drinking water you've ever had. I don't know how it is here in northern New Jersey because I don't know if I would agree with that. Ours is definitely not better. We have a filter at home. But imagine being in one of these other countries that doesn't even have clean drinking water. So what they do is they're able to provide that. And what we've been able to incorporate, so even back then, we started to use the EcoHead basin head. So what's great about EcoHeads is they have tourmaline beads built into them. So they take a lot of the impurities out. So if you have a lot of clay, a lot of salts, a lot of things in your typical tap water
Mhm.
where your salon is, all of those things affect hair color. And not just about how, because you're not really applying color at the sink, right? You're rinsing it. So all of those impurities make it harder to rinse out hair color. And I'm sure everyone would agree that from a sustainable aspect of your salon, time is always money, regardless of how eco you are. So it's able to help with the facilitate that. But what's interesting, it has a laser cut screen that is actually what helps to create extra water pressure. So you get a rain soft feel which with a much more condensed spray. So it gives a different feel for the client. So it's got this luxe feel to it. And I have to be honest, we switched our basins right before COVID happened in December, and we were going to really keep good tabs. We promised that we would monitor our water usage because in most places, water usage is either included in a lot of rents or it's really reasonable. And we've reduced our water usage here by 70%.
That's amazing.
I mean, 70% is like crazy, right? It's not,
It's amazing.
20% is good, 70% is crazy. And the thing of that too is that remember, every time you're using your water, you're washing whatever it is down the drain. So it's not just the fact of, hey, I'm using less water, so I'm saving a couple dollars. It's what's actually going into the water system. And a lot of hair products are not aqueous. So they just, you may not be thinking about how it affects sea life, but it definitely does.
I can't, yeah, 70% is like kind of unreal. It's hard
Yeah.
to even think about being able to cut it that much.
I wish
That's
I wish my water bill was like $2,000 a month and I saved 70% because then I would be doing a dance right now. But it's good environmentally. It's a good thing, and it provides a great story for our clients because they ask about it. It's clear, it's see through. It's sort of like the Apple version of what your sink head would be. It's
yeah.
not the traditional old black rubber hose type. So clients ask about it, and
Does
and
it
listen.
feel different because the streams come through the screen?
It does, but what's really cool about it is it has these little divots on the side, so it just is ergonomically correct when you grab it that you're holding it in the right place. So it's actually kind of cool. Listen, salons are so late to adopt anything new. And if the pandemic taught us anything, whether it's tech or whether it's anything that they would want to implement, it's one of those things that you're like, why didn't we use this before? Like,
Right.
it's not even that expensive for the impact, and the clients get the bigger part. I think for me is the clients feel the difference in the service. So that really is where the important thing is because we're all looking for great ways to kind of make our service seem like there's just some more wow factor to it.
That's great. So what other systems have you looked at the salon and tried to make them more sustainable?
Well, I think probably the best thing that we've been able to implement, and the oddity of it is, we had talked to our friends at Vish, so Josh and Tim Howard, great software, great setup, and we've been very friendly with them because of the different things we do in the eco realm for salons, and we never implemented it as fast as we wanted to, which is a whole nother thing, right? Pandemic wise, it's like, oh, we're going to redo our website or we're going to do this. And all of a sudden you have 3 months off and go into this reduced capacity that you're trying to really jump and say, hey, let me go back to that old list. And Vish was definitely it. So I had said to Vish, we're going to open. So New Jersey reopened on June 22nd. I said, we are going to reopen with Vish. Like, we're not going to do a waiting period. So we trained the staff mildly. And as anybody knows, trying to train staff remotely during a pandemic while they're waiting for unemployment and all the other craziness that went involved is not the easiest. And we opened right back up with Vish. And first of all, the timing to get them ramped up was so much better than I thought. So I'm the techie because I don't do hair.
Right.
My initial team that I started was my wife Angela's team, and I'm not on her team. So I said, okay, she's there. She can pop in an earpiece. I can troubleshoot remote. I have cameras. I can say, hey, put the scale in front of the camera and show me what it shows you, and I can make it work. And it worked so well, and they adopted it so easily because it almost looks very gamified, like any other app you would use. So that was fantastic. But I have to be honest, when salons opened after not making money for 3 months, we were concerned. Did we, what did our inventory look like, right? Because everyone sort of closed abruptly. Um, Clients weren't in for months. So how much product usage, how much more color were you going to use? And if you
Right.
raised your
And how
price,
fast are clients going to come back?
there's so many factors. And it really worked out great for us because we were able to lower our inventory of color by 30% after the first, it probably was, I'll say 60 days, but I bet it was 45 days because you need a little bit of a cycle. And now what's happening is that the front desk app that they run actually will let the desk know what the color overages are. So really for us, if I could get rid of the card boxes that everybody uses, I needed the space because extra PPE, we have a very comprehensive recycling center in our salon that's very visible when you walk between our main floor and color room because I want them to see it. I want them to see we separate gloves. I want them to see we separate hair. I want that to be very part of our ethos. And now I'm saying, where am I going to put the extra space for the masks and the extra sanitizers and the stuff that we needed? So it just was a tremendous help for us to be able to utilize that and save the money because now we're starting to get into the next year, and there are charities like I said, Thirst Project, Justice and Soul, Mondays at Racine, some of these people that have a real close affinity to the hair industry and what we do, that you come off a year like last year and you're like, man, we love to donate and love charity, but we just don't have the extra money. So by being able to save money, it just gives you that profit margin, that spot that pleasantly surprised was a lot more money than I thought.
Well, let's talk about that. I do want to back up though, for people that are just listening. This is a color management app. Kind of explain to them how it works.
So basically, I guess the easiest way to give you the gist of Vish, if that's, I might have to coin that, register that website, Stacey.
The gist of
Um,
it.
well, so what happens is that you actually weigh with a scale, and the funny thing is their scale is like same thing. It's like if Apple invented a hair color scale, it would be the one they use. It looks great, it works great. It doesn't have a lot of buttons and craziness on it. If you're like our household, we've baked more banana bread in the past year than
Yeah.
we've ever done before. So when you have something that's that easy to use in terms of measuring, it's completely appreciated. And what you do is, so once you mix your color, our color line, which is the Davinessa new color, is a 3-part line. So it becomes a little more difficult because of that extra piece. So you don't mix enough color. You're like, oh my God, client's half done or 3/4 done. You have to go back to the bowl. And when you have, even if it's 2 parts, but especially when it's multiple, you're going to overmix because you
Mhm.
just have to get back, right? They're half done or whatever. You have to jump back. You'll go back and reweigh that waste. So granted, yes, if you're a green circle salon or if you do something eco like that, you're going to capture that waste anyway. But the problem of it is you're not capturing the money typically from that waste. So by incorporating both of them, you actually get the benefit of helping the planet, and Vish will start to make it so you're making less waste because it reformulates your color. And I mean, we use Forest and love Forest as a company, but Vish works with, I mean, I feel like every single major software
Mhm.
that, the best of the best of Vish definitely works with. And that keeps that in the system so you can go back. And it's more important now because if salons, we're still only at 35% capacity in New Jersey. So there's a really good chance that if you have a client that needs to get in or you're split shifted, they may have to see someone else. So now you have to worry about different team, different person. Where's the card? What was the last formula? It gets to be a little bit more complicated. And this takes all of the stress off of that. So you get stress relief, you get digitized formulas, you get money saving. And what we're finding now that we've been open for about 10 months now is that now we're able to go back with the front desk app and say, well, everybody always has end up on their menus. So those clients that are end up, you're able to figure out what that actual end up values, and you're going to be able to say to them at the desk, hey, listen, our traditional single process application is 4 ounces of color and you're 8.
Yeah.
And you're going to have to pay what that cost is that's different. So you're able to recapture that money that, worst of all, the extra color went down the drain. Even worse than the planet is that it comes out of your green purse and you don't have the money. So it's got multifacets that I think just make it fantastic, and I think for me it's a no brainer. And I know there's a cost to anything that you implement, but the money saving and what it's able to do, I think well outweighs that.
Well, and there's definitely, coming back from the pandemic, people definitely had longer routes, but I think that's going to continue to be a trend with some clients. They're just they're working from home. They're not traveling. They're not going to events. They're not in the office. They're going to stretch those appointments. So you may see them less frequently, but you certainly don't want to lose money on them because you're using more color and you're not capturing that in the
Yeah,
front.
and as somebody that doesn't do hair color, I mean, like I said, I'm fully admitting the hair industry adopted me as their child. And I don't do any services except the business side. When clients do that, we used to think of it almost as a penalty fee, right? Hey, they're a 6-week client and stretched to 9 weeks or whatever it is, and it's like we're going to charge them that additional color fee regardless. But what if that additional color fee is not enough? And that was the problem, is that if you
Right.
said, "Hey, we have a $10 per ounce upcharge for extra usage," and if you just implement that saying, well, she's got to have an extra ounce because she's been, 3 weeks past due. Well, what if it's more? And why can't you calibrate it? And if clients start to get that understanding, that's where we hope that, we see the light at the end of the tunnel with the pandemic. But if they start to understand that, hey, our color is digitally calibrated, you're going to pay the extra for what you use. We're not going to overbill you. We're not going to charge you an extra $50 unless we need to. And if you really want to know, well, the scale talks to the computer. So it's not the stylist word versus the front desk versus the
Right.
manager. It's calibrated and right there. So I think that it's more understandable when they see it. What you're weighing your fruit at the supermarket, and if the bananas are, just because you bought one banana and it's the size of your car, doesn't mean that it's the same price as a whole bunch of bananas that aren't. So it's sort of, there's a lot of different benefits to that for sure.
The other benefit from it talking to the front desks is it captures things that sometimes get lost in the conversation between the stylist and the front desk. So, I just did this last time. I thought my hair was a little dark. I said, could you pop in a couple of highlights? That wasn't on our schedule. So the front desk wouldn't have known that unless it went to the front desk. Or you decide to do a toner, and a lot of stylists are kind of famous for throwing that in there, but it doesn't get captured at the front desk.
It's true, and toner
And
is a great example because a lot of your toners come in that, I mean, like I said, I won't over name names, but they're all sort of in that same little bottle that they have, and you're mixing them. So if you put them in an actual traditional bottle and you're going to apply it, you're applying that toner or glaze. You're mixing a lot more than you even need, right? And like I said, not so much about the waste that goes down the drain. That's important to us, but for people that don't necessarily consider themselves a super green eco salon, the money. If it's an entire bottle of toner that should get 3 or 4 applications and they're using it for one just to fill the bottle and spilling out half of it into the drain, man, the waste on that and the cost. Listen, if your toner or glaze is 30 or 40, $50 that you're applying, imagine wasting a whole one. And if you're, multiply that by the amount of stylists. So, you're losing $50 a day per stylist just on that one service because they're over mixing or not charging the right way. So it's scary to me that I don't want to see the numbers a year from now. Like, I'm afraid that when we get into that after Earth Day and things sort of settle down for our green friends and things, that I'm going to look on July 4th weekend. Hopefully, I'll be vaccinated and having a cocktail by somebody's pool. Um, but I'm going to look at these numbers and I'm going to say, oh my God, we could have charged this much more based on what the waste was or the non charges.
Right. So can you tell yet how much it is saving you? Because I know you're not comparing apples to apples. Your capacity is lower.
Yeah,
Lower.
we're about straight up 30% so far. I know I can get it better than that, but that's 30% on inventory by not over ordering. And everyone knows color inventory cannot. You're ordering colors that just sit there that you never use. And I understand when color companies invent color lines, what they do, they want to make the ease of use and accessibility there, but there are definitely colors that you're not ever touching.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you can always tell when they change the packaging and that one that's left that everybody's like, what is this? Is this? It's like, no, that's the one that we never used and it's been here for 6 years. So 30% in that, and then 30% in the reduction of what we're wasting. Now we're monitoring the recapture. I'm trying to avoid that because we did implement a price increase, not a COVID fee. We went up a decent amount when we reopened. So I'm not highlighting that for my end yet. I will look in June and then I'll make my reassessment on it because I didn't want to listen. Clients are beat up too, right? Some of them are out of work. They're working differently. So we did our price increase based on what we thought was going to work best for us, not really on the color waste. So I'm curious to see how close we were. And
Yeah.
I'm curious to see how we can recapture, because a lot of salons that did that COVID fee, you're not going to get rid of it, right? So if you added $2, $5, $10, now it's going on a year, right, since the first closure. Once the end of this year hits, don't take that COVID fee off when we stop wearing masks. I mean, you're going to need to recapture that just to cover. I mean, listen, you probably know gloves went from, we use the fancy black gloves, right? We like them. It sort of fits our look and feel. They went from $10 to $19 a box. So, I mean, close to double in price. So just don't be the clients that ask you, when are we going to get rid of the COVID fee? You should probably start telling them never. It's just going to be called something different and it's going to be absorbed into the cost of doing business.
Yeah. So Vish is having a competition. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, actually, Vish is doing a great competition. So, one of the thoughts that we always had that if Earth Month, right? It's Earth Day, now it's Earth Month. It starts on the 1st. If you have aspirations to make your salon greener, you need a plan, right? Habits are formed. I know everybody say 30-day plans, but it's really 67 days, I think, as psychologists say now. But you still need a 30-day plan of action, at least from a business perspective. It's not an overnight thing. You have to do a little bit of an assessment on what you're going to implement. And Vish has a really great setup that sort of gives everything that's available right now that would make your salon greener just as a starter package. So it does have eco heads built into it, which I talked about earlier, which I think are great. Like I said, not just in the water savings, but I think it just changes the client experience because of the feel. It has paper, not foil. So one of the things I always say with paper, not foil, we've over the years had a lot of different ways to do foiling or a similar service, right? Balayage, hand painting, there's so many things. And one of the things that I feel like salon owners are limited on is you go with the trendy name of foliage, or you go with the trendier name that's out, which is, there's nothing wrong with that. But if you have different options on your menu, and charge a premium. So if you say, listen, if you don't want traditional foils, we do a paper, not foil. But if you do that service, we're actually going to plant 2 trees every time we do that service, and you're going to be able to categorize that in your system. So for clients that do have that charitable component to them, they're going to be more, it's just going to give you another line item of something that you do that's cool and different. It also has a ping mixer, which is also made by EcoHeads. What's cool about the ping mixer, first of all, it looks like a penguin, just warning everybody. My kids thought it was a toy when we got the demo unit. It's funny. I told them we tested that for them before it was on market. And one of the things I said is they should have put a little orange piece on the front. So I'm like, embrace it, make it look like an actual penguin. Like, but it's a really cool thing. And what it does is it actually whips your color. So it gives it, think cappuccino versus regular coffee. And if you incorporate that into your service and why you do it, it just gives you another little extra edge where clients are going to say, hey, so first of all, it makes more volume with what you're using. So it fills up more and aerates it. But secondly, it just makes you that much cooler with this wireless unit. You wheel up to them and they're like, what are you doing? And it's like they're everybody's watching all these crazy cooking shows, right? You're doing a cooking show right in front of them, right? So they get to see everything, which is really cool. It also includes Vish. So it includes your scale. It includes, I'm not sure exactly how many months of Vish. I don't know if it's a 3 month trial with Vish, which is perfect for anybody that's looking to do Vish because that's a really good 90-day test to get your money savings with Vish is also going to kind of catapult you into that 90 days of saving money and making it worth the payment plus. You will save more than enough money than the payment. To be completely honest with you, my gauge is you're going to save 3 times as much as the payment. So I know that sounds scary to some salon owners when they look at it and say, hey, if it's X amount, I'm going to really save that much more. It's just that much more money that you can save. And you do that over 12 months. And now you have fly in some great educator to do a cutting class when you can come back in the salon. Donate to a great charity. Donate to multiple charities,
Yeah.
whether they're local, eco, or whatever. So there's so many cool things. And you
Reinvest
get
in
it.
the salon, add things in that you need. Yeah.
And the best part about it is you get an hour with me. So I'll help you do an analysis of what you're doing. We'll talk to you a little bit more about what we do differently. And our clients are so receptive to it. One of the things is that I always say when salons come up with what their motto is and what they do, or their business plans and things, very few times do they go back to them and say, "Hey, why did we name our salon this? Why did we open here? Why did we do that?" And I feel like sometimes going back to that original, you just sort of reflect back on what you would change and what you would do differently. So for us, like I said, we have 3 small kids at home. We've been working with a great local charity, which is called Children's Aid and Family Services, which is right here in Bergen County. They're one of the oldest charities in the world. They're over 118 years old, and they deal with group home foster care kids. So one of our eco mantras that we had started in October was we took recycled Halloween costumes to donate them to these foster kids and these kids in group homes. So it was a thing that fit into our eco model of what we did. We're recycling, right? I mean, basically, most people, if you have kids, you throw those Halloween costumes in the garbage, they outgrow
Right.
them, they rip them, whatever. And you're sort of repurposing them, not just to do something for the environment, but to do something for somebody in need. And that's really special. That's something, and there's so many things that you can do like that that may speak to your clientele or younger clientele, older clientele. There's so many things that you can do that just speak just as much to sustainability as what you're not washing down the drain.
Well, and today's consumers like to do business with companies that stand for something and that have a cause and be part of that. So how do you educate them? How do you educate your clients on what you're doing? Both with
Well,
sustainability, but I imagine they were helping bring the costumes in for.
they were, and that's the thing is, communicating any project that you do. So, we would always say communicating your sustainable message. You need to make sure. I love shelf talkers. We've had ways to make them greener and repurpose them, and fun picture frames and some things that do it. But make sure that listen, everybody that got a COVID dog that goes to a salon. So anybody that's not in the hair salon, we just don't really want to talk about your COVID dog anymore. We want to talk about your hair that we want to try to fix and make sure you're using the correct shampoos to make your color last longer
Yeah.
and things. It just adds another layer of not talking about things that are. I know the salons used to be viewed so much as like the water cooler place, right? They talked about
Yeah.
anything. And what's happening now is you don't want your clients to age out. The younger generations that are coming up, Gen Z, I think the next gen is called alphas. These are people that have had technology in their hand that don't know, they've never lived in a house without a smart TV, right? So if your clients lived in a house that there was one TV and it was that big piece of furniture in the living room, they the gap changes so dynamically in a very short amount of time as technology changes. So you need to make sure those younger generation people do not want to work with a company that doesn't have a message. They
Right.
are very quick to not even just boycott. to just not shop there anymore. So one of the things that I talk a lot about with our staff in terms of dealing with the clients is that we love shop local. All right, shop local is a great thing. We think it's great, but they're going to start to shop intentional. That there's a difference. Not only are they going to want to shop local and support a business, but if your clients don't realize, you guys have talked a lot about it with some options of people shopping online, and every hairstylist group that's out there is complaining about what line sells on Amazon or who sells in Sephora and things. But if your clients don't know that, hey, when you buy here, you're supporting a mom that runs the business, you're supporting a new trainee that just graduated beauty school, you're supporting the education for our salon, it's the same price. You're buying the same price. We do charities. Amazon makes, if I can't tell you how much Amazon makes. I know I don't want to I don't want to throw a monkey wrench into the good stuff we're talking about, Stacy, but you want those things to be intentional. I know everybody likes to talk about, everybody got into yoga over the closures and did fun things, and unfortunately, I sat there and worked with a lot of salon owners that needed some help, which I'm happy about a year later, and I'm glad that we're sort of 12 months past almost. But it's the intention. It's, they need to know if there's fun things that you're doing, whether it's just promo on shampoo. If there's something else you're doing, it should be something talked about.
Well, and then I also love the idea with the ping and bringing it out and doing it in front of them, and with Vish and them seeing this, it also subliminally like tells them they can't recreate this hair color experience at home. So you're using very specific technology tools to give them the best color possible. And that's not going to come off the shelf at the grocery store.
No, and that's the thing too, is that formulation wise, I mean, now that I just order the color, right? So I just know what we order. I don't even know. I know enough to be dangerous, I've been told, but I'm not going to pass any hair color test. But what's interesting is that if you get them to a point where they understand that the formula is customized, they're not even going to think it's an option. And I know, some of your clients are just straight up gray coverage. They're a level 5. It's not a big deal, but make it a bigger deal. Show your expertise. Show why they're coming to you, not just because of the conversation or the great thing your salon does, but show them that this is what we do. That, hey, great, you want to go home and use, I won't name a name because my tires will be flat in the parking lot today. You want to use that version of box color, you're going to have to buy 5 boxes, and then you're going to have to mix just the right ratio to get the look that I do. And it's not untrue. It's just sometimes we just don't highlight enough of what our expertise is. And I hope that that's one thing that came out of this pandemic.
Yeah. Well, great. Well, thanks for talking to us about all the technology and all the ways that you're being sustainable. And it was a great conversation for Salon Today, James.
No, I appreciate it. And anybody, you can reach out to me. Our Instagram is at Salon Movement. So we do a lot in sustainability. You can find us on Facebook. You can get us anywhere. And we're always happy to encourage other salons to do more things sustainably and to help any way we can.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Stacy.